So you have served with Iraqi forces as an advisor, and tell me about the advising option for Afghan forces, and what went wrong that they couldn't defend or stand ground against the Taliban, and with all this training and all the money invested in them.
With the Afghan forces, right? Okay. Well, in a nutshell, the main difference was that during the advise assist phase of the coin operation in Afghanistan in OIF versus Iraq with Operation Iraqi Freedom, was that Obama essentially didn't let the advisors during the advise assist phase embed with their Iraqi counterparts. That was done all throughout the advise assist phase of the Iraqi of Operation Iraqi Freedom advise assist phase. And as anyone who is an expert and has actually done these types of operations in the field will tell you, the best way to train foreign forces is to embed with them. That way, you know exactly what their situation is. You're not, making calls from thousands of miles away or hundreds of miles away. Even you're on the ground with them, and they also see exactly what it is you do, and you can learn from each other that way. That was not done. It was supposed to be done. It was planned to be done, but at the last minute, the Obama administration told the military that what they said was that the advisors could not conduct any combat operations. They could only fight the Taliban in self-defense if they were attacked first. So that meant they couldn't go on the front lines with the units that they were advising. They couldn't do all those types of things. It also, very importantly, meant that all of the remaining air power that we had in the country was essentially useless unless the Taliban fired on Americans first, which of course they knew not to do for that reason. So it essentially gave the Taliban a golden pass to resurge in Afghanistan. This is from about the last 2 years of the Obama administration on that this happened. Okay, so like about 2013-ish.
So,
The Biden administration's inner workings isn't really something.
Sure, let's put this this way, because you serve with Iraqi troops, helping Iraqi troops to training all these things. As you wrote me this thing, I read through that that it was more effective because they fought back the ISIS. But now Taliban, they are not even able to fight ISK, and Afghan troops fall. So do you think there's a flaw or failure in that's the way they were trained or something like that?
Well, it's basically, I think, what I was saying before. We never were able to embed with the Afghans the way we did in Iraq. And the advise assist phase is supposed to be just that, right? It's supposed to be an advise and assist phase. Obama essentially turned it into just an advise phase, and not a very effective one at that. I mean, we were not able to use our own assets unless we were attacked ourselves first. So basically, it took all the initiative out of the assist portion of the advise assist phase, and it handed the ball to the Afghans, I think, much earlier than either the U.S. military command or the Afghans had planned. And so they were behind the 8 ball from the start as a result of that. It did start to become partly rectified during the Trump administration in that we were allowed to conduct combat operations again. And we did start to build up the Afghan security forces, but we had less on the ground. And it was mainly the Afghan Special Forces and Air Force that we concentrated on there. And they made very good strides, but as history has shown, you cannot secure a country just with an Air Force and Special Forces, unfortunately. you need an army. And it was, because, in my opinion, it was because of our failure to do that under the strategy we initially had, similar to the way we did in Iraq, that it all fell apart. In Iraq, they had trouble with ISIS initially, sure. We did not train, we trained them for internal, national terrorist threats. ISIS had already taken over significant assets in Syria and springboarded from there, and so they had to be retooled as a result. But at least they were still there, and it could be done. It all fell apart very quickly in Afghanistan with the insurgents that were already there and that were released as part of the agreement. 5,000 that were released. That also was a big setback, but it fell apart rapidly because they saw that we did not have skin in the game to a large effect. We already, kind of abandoned the advised assist phase we had planned, and that now we were pulling out. And I think that demoralized and delegitimized the efforts that they had there. When we left, of course, we also took with us all of our contractors that were supporting their combat mobility, their air power for air support, for resupply, for all those things that are very important in a country like Afghanistan, where there's a lot of very remote regions separated by large mountain ranges, where you need those types of assets to operate quickly. And so as a result, things rapidly deteriorated after that. There's been a lot of there's been some talk about this recently, and how we shouldn't have made the Afghan forces in our image, and they should have been less reliant on air power, and there's some merit to that.
So I spoke to General Petraeus in the past, and also this time he was talking about U.S. strategic patience. And once also he mentioned that Afghans should fight their Afghan way to beat the Taliban. And at the same time, a lot of equipments left behind, and those are kind of assets, and now they're in the hand of the Taliban. How do you see Taliban mobility coming through, or do you think they can manage to use these weapons in one point, or how do you see their ability?
Oh, eventually, I think they will learn to use them. It's only a matter of time. There are training bases throughout the world where that they have affiliates that go to that can certainly help them learn how to use much, if not all, of those weapons, with maybe the exception of some of the aircraft. And it certainly gives them an insight into how our weapon systems work and things like that, how to better fight Western countries, for both them and their allies in the future as well. In terms of the Afghan way to fight, I mean, yes, that is true. I mean, you always have to balance that with, I mean, the reality on the ground is when you have a country that's coming in to help you, there's going to always be kind of a give and take with that. I mean, there's the way they fight, there's the way the host nation forces are used to fighting, and you both kind of have to take away, learn from each other in essence, because one knows one thing and one knows another way. But that can be done. That can be done more effectively when they're together. That's why it's so important to be with those forces. And you can let them do things the Afghan way, but still show them other ways too. And you can even learn from them. And it's a mutually beneficial arrangement when you're able to actually embed with them on the ground and on the front lines. When that doesn't happen, though, when you're demanding this operation all from the sidelines, from behind the lines, I mean, then that you're much more in the dark. And I think that's what happened.
So just last question, from point of intelligence, how do you see the security threats coming from Afghanistan? And do you think this over-the-horizon counterterrorism mission is enough to stop the terrorists posing any threat to the US or to the world?
Unfortunately, I don't. As many have said, including Ambassador Crocker, our intelligence just isn't what it was when we had boots on the ground. When you take that away, that severely diminishes your intelligence and your ability to see what the Taliban or Al Qaeda or any terrorist groups are doing and be able to respond to it, as I think our failed drone strike there has shown, unfortunately, and things like that. You really need to be able to have some type of presence there, even if it's just even if it's just an embassy under a friendly government, that can work with them and work with their intelligence, which we might have had if the Taliban didn't take over. You need something at least like that to be able to operate in that country. Now we have nothing. The Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, they all do have an embassy there as well. And I think that's going to make it harder for us as well to know what's going on there in the future and to be able to assist partners on the ground or to help our own national security in the future there. It's going to be severely hampered by their presence there.